Hello, I am Xarkun. This is World of Warships Legends, and today I bring you another video featuring the premium Tier 7 Japanese destroyer Yudachi, the reward ship for the ongoing campaign, which I think we're about halfway through. Of course, I am further than halfway through on this campaign because I bought it out like a dirty, filthy wallet warrior, and, here we are. Anyway, before I get into the main theme of this video, if you will, let me do a little bit of housekeeping and say that as of the moment that I'm recording this, we've got 497 subscribers, nearly to 500, which means we're nearly halfway to my long-term goal of 1,000. So thank you guys so much for that, and I suspect we'll be getting there relatively soon-ish, and when we do, I have some things in the works. Some things that I think you guys are very much going to enjoy. All I will say is that it involves streaming, and hopefully some other people will be involved in that. That's all I'll say. Anyway, I want to ask you a question. Have you ever asked yourself, or have you ever gone on to a public forum and asked the following question? When are aircraft carriers coming to this game? I suspect a lot of people have, perhaps not you guys specifically, but I do see a lot of questions about carriers when I go on to Facebook or Reddit or the official World of Warships Legends Discord server. Everybody wants to know about carriers. And here's the thing about carriers. Should they ever come to Legends, they are going to radically alter the game. Now, if you know anything about naval history, and I'm not going to pretend that I know a whole lot about naval history, you know that aircraft carriers completely changed the landscape of naval warfare, let's say, the waterscape of it, right? So, before the introduction of aircraft carriers, the battleship was like the top unit, the pride of the Navy, the vessel with the most destructive potential. And then after aircraft carriers, the battleship began to take second fiddle, and the carrier was the main piece of any navy or any fleet. And in this game, should carriers come, I just want to illustrate with this battle how much of a problem they would present to destroyers. And maybe, if you hear that, you start thinking, alright, I'd like to present some more problems for destroyers because they're always torpedoing me or whatever it is they're doing. But keep in mind, and don't take this as me lamenting the plight of destroyer players or anything, but there are already plenty of counters to destroyers. You've got several radar cruisers, some of which have ridiculously long ranges on their radar. You've got other destroyers that are uniquely good at hunting down and killing destroyers. You've got German sonar, and the destroyer already is the ship class with the most shallow health pool. If you get spotted in a destroyer, there's a good chance you're gonna die, okay? And it's not like pretty much the entire player base of this game doesn't realize when a destroyer is spotted that they ought to kill it. You can play this game for 10 battles, and the first time you're sailing in a straight line in a battleship and take a devastating strike from a salvo of torpedoes, you will understand from that moment on that destroyers are one of the pretty much the biggest threat in the game, okay? So when you see them, you're gonna hopefully want to shoot at them. Everybody knows this. Destroyers, they pack a punch, and they need to be taken down. And, of course, another counter to a destroyer is the fighter planes. I guess they're kind of like spotter planes, but a lot of ships carry a single plane that they can launch into the air. It flies in a circular pattern around the area of the map their ship occupies, and it spots destroyers, it spots other ships, it spots torpedoes, etc. So there are already tons of counters to destroyers, and if you're having a hard time dealing with them, well, there goes that Kutuzov. Kinda wasn't expecting that to happen. If you're having a hard time dealing with them, then, you know, there are plenty of counters. Don't sail in a straight line. Protect your radar cruisers. Watch the mini-map, etc. Now, if carriers were to come into this, we'd have squadrons of planes being controlled by players. These planes, unlike the single spotter planes in the game right now, would be able to spot a destroyer, and then if they wanted to, be able to keep it spotted. They'd also be able to do things like fire rockets at them if they're rocket attack planes. Seems to me that those things are nicely suited to dealing damage to destroyers, and they would make not only the lives of destroyer players much harder, but also the lives of any cruiser players who like to lean into concealment on their cruiser builds like I do. For example, they would cause me a lot of problems in my British line of cruisers. And coming up here in this next sequence, we are going to demonstrate just how a single plane that isn't controlled by a player at all can completely ruin your game. So here we are on the enemy's base. We are stopping the passive accrual of points by them. You know, these bases work a lot like the capture points in domination mode. If you get on the enemy base, they no longer have a passive points income. Now at this point, the only way these guys get any points is if they take down one of my teammates. Meanwhile, my friendly base over there, the blue one, is not contested, so you can see on the points counter that the points are still ticking up. If I manage to stay on this base for long enough and no more of my teammates go down, tall order, I know, but if I manage to do that, eventually the points that we have, we're going to catch up to the enemy team's total and then surpass them. Alternatively, if I can get rid of this Nelson and this King George, which are two uniquely dangerous battleships to me, then I can maybe capture the base and win the game that way. Now I'm going to launch torpedoes at this Nelson. I should point out that I'm using the standard torpedoes in this game. They range out to 10.8 kilometers on my build. They go at 71 knots, and they do a maximum damage of, I think, 21,000. Now, I was just briefly spotted by that plane that the King George launched a moment ago, so I laid down smoke. I've got torpedoes going at the Nelson, and I believe they are going to hit. I only need one or two to take him down, and there he goes. And now I've got the King George here. Now, there is a plane flying above me. I don't know where it is because the smoke screen is hiding it from my view. So right now I am just shooting at the King George. Unfortunately, I don't have torpedoes available. I already burned the reload booster, and the King George is getting close. So I'm going to exit the smoke screen from the other side and hopefully get into a position to use my torpedoes against this battleship. But of course, the plane spots me. And then the King George is able to take away pretty much all of my hit points before I am able to finish him off. And now, I don't think the King George knows it yet, but the fact that his plane spotted me and the fact that he was able to take away so many of my hit points is, well, it's basically made it impossible for me to win this game, whereas before I could have done it. Had I been full health and this Kagero appeared, I would have been a little bit more inclined to shoot back at him, and I think there's a chance that I could have defeated him and perhaps taken the capture point. But as it stands, that single plane that spotted me completely ruined my game. And you might see that, you might be happy about that, you might think, alright, we need more of that, we need more planes ruining the game for destroyer players, they need more counters. Well, I'm here to disagree with you, they don't. I mean, that single plane was enough right there. There's one counter to worry about that doesn't even take into account the radar cruiser that's coming my way, or the German sonar, or any of that stuff. And that plane wasn't even controlled by a player. Imagine if it was. It could still be following me now, and I would already be dead. But I'm not. Still alive. And it's the Kagero here who is going to end up taking me out. So that's what I've got to say. You can disagree with me. You can tell me what you think in the comments about carriers and their ability to change the game and whether or not you think that's a good thing. Personally, I don't, and I'd prefer it if they didn't come to this game, although I suspect at some point they will. Anyway, this game is probably going to be a loss. If you were paying attention to the minimap at all, you'll notice that I was, I think, the only one on my team who was out here trying to make some things happen. The rest of my teammates spent an inordinate amount of time clustered up in our base, and only now are they moving forward and trying to accomplish some stuff after I am dead, and there are still 2 enemy destroyers. So this one, it's not going to end in our victory. Although, pretty good game in the Yudachi. 3 kills, 157,000 damage. And, we're going to end up top of the leaderboard with about 2,000 base XP. So, also, if you're wondering what the standard torpedoes look like on the Yudachi, there you have it. I've been told by a viewer that probably the standard torpedoes are the best way to go in solo play, and that may be good advice. They certainly are a little bit easier to use than the Screamer torps. You don't have to get so close and put yourself in so much danger to make them effective, and we were pretty easily able to get up to 157,000 damage. So, Yudachi's a great ship. Delicate little butterfly, though, and if it gets spotted, it dies. So it would suffer probably uniquely more than some of the other destroyers, especially since it doesn't seem to have any kind of anti-aircraft firepower to speak of. I've been spotted by several planes in the Yudachi, and it has shot exactly 0 of them down. So, there you have it. This is not like some sort of exhaustive rant or polemic against carriers. This is just some of my thoughts on what the carriers might do to this game, and I don't necessarily think it's going to be good for the ecosystem of the game, if you know what I mean. Anyway, the battle here is about to expire. You can feel free to tell me what you think about carriers, or perhaps the mistakes I may have made that resulted in my demise in this battle. And yeah, thank you for watching. thank you for subscribing. Like I said, we're almost at 500. That's halfway to 1,000, and I'm pretty excited about making it to that point. So, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and consider subscribing to my channel if you have not done that already. I will see you next time. Stick around for the results screen if you want, but that's it from me for today. See you guys later. Goodbye.